Self-driving cars, self-driving semis, self-driving what have you, it will never happen. No, never, not once, especially not in Texas, where everything is bigger, including the self-driving vehicles. I got Hans C. Nelson, my favorite Texas representative here, and I say that as soon as I said that, I realize all my other Texas peeps are going to be outraged, furious in the comments. If you're Brian Rashetsky, leave a message letting me know that I got my call wrong on that. I'm not always right. You guys will have to let me know. But today he's my favorite because he's got information. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So for those who don't know, Hans Nelson is a big shot in my world. I do every Friday. We're on the Tesla Beat podcast together. You can follow him over here on X, where he does not charge for all his brilliance. Although there's a subscribe option, there's surely more brilliance. But yeah, he's got thoughts aplenty.
Subscribe is really just for people who want to support me. I don't have anything different for people who subscribe compared to those who don't. It's all out there on my X profile, and a lot of the stuff from the YouTube ends up there as well.
I have been posting a lot of subscriber only content, and the number of subscribers I have on X has gone down. So I guess they were there more to support than to actually hear from me. So that's unfortunate, but hey man, what are you going to do? You know what we're talking about today? I said it in the intro. First, driverless semi-truck hits the road in Texas, equipped with a powerful computer and sensors that can see beyond the length of 4 football fields, anything to not measure in metric. Americans are wonderful in that regard. And by the way, you know the 3 numbers on the side of your tire, right? You know what those stand for? One is the inner diameter in inches, and then there's the tread width in centimeters, and the last number is a percentage of the ratio between them. What are we doing? This is chaos. So
Gotta love America.
Oh, anything just to be difficult. How many eagles per French fry football field? I just don't know. So there's Aurora Innovation has launched its commercial self-driving truck. It'll make regular deliveries between Dallas and Houston. It is a level 4 system. That means it's kind of legit. What do you know about this?
Well, I know that this is an incredibly important area of transport that needs to be made autonomous for a number of reasons. A, literally almost everything that you interact with on a daily basis was somehow impacted by freight and logistics, and especially overland freight and logistics by truck. So not only is there freight that's carried by ships and trains, but the vast majority of everything ends up where it ends up because it is transported there by a truck on at least the last leg. And that price has been just ballooning recently because of a number of factors, but one of the big ones being it is really hard to get drivers for trucks these days. And that is kind of a combination of the people that have been driving trucks have been retiring, and we haven't been adding new truck drivers as fast as the old ones are retiring. And the regulations are increasing, and it's harder to get on the road and drive long enough to make enough money. And so just like a combination of factors. And so from an economic standpoint, if we want to make it easier for people to buy the things that they buy on a daily basis, an impact on the cost of truck freight is a big needle mover. And so that's one of the reasons that we've been trying to work on this problem. That's why Tesla's working on this problem. But just as with many of the other technologies that Tesla's working on, they're not the only ones. And Aurora's been at this for a while, and it's great to see this actually on the roads.
I couldn't agree more. Now, you said that everything goes through a truck, and to the people who will say, no, air freight or rail, yes. And then how does it get from the rail yard to the actual hub? Probably on a truck. Even if we went...
You ever seen a train at an airport? How did it get between those two things?
Only passenger ones, now that you mention it. That's a very good point. The intermodal doesn't tend to loop in the aircraft, does it? That's interesting. Yeah. Do you ever see the airport next to a shipping port with a connection between them? I haven't. Maybe it's very common, and they're just sneaky. So what we've got is a program in Texas. Texas, back in 2019, jumped ahead of this. They said, look, this is coming. We got to make it happen. So they've put together a task force. They put rules in place. And one thing I wanted to touch on before we get to the exciting part next, which is the map, is frequently asked questions. Um, when are they coming to Texas? They're here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And where are
They
they?
were never going to happen, but they're already here.
Hmm. Where? The map. We're getting there. Why are we preparing for this? Because it's safer, right? And if it's not safer, they won't do it.
Exactly. And that's the part that I didn't even touch on, that there is a huge potential on the safe, like trucks. If you think a car traveling at 70 miles an hour can do a lot of damage, just wait until you get hit by a truck. It is devastating. And it's especially difficult on a lot of Texas roads that have just the wrong amount of hills,
Mm,
where you lose visibility of the next mile, quarter mile on a regular
mhm.
basis. And there's a lot of traffic fatalities on interstates in Texas that have to do with trucks that come upon just traffic that is stopped, but the visibility is such that they can't see
They're
far
just
enough
over the
ahead.
crest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And yeah.
that's a huge opportunity.
And what is it? Well, it's either connected or autonomous or any of those things. And I mean, you have to include this. How could it benefit individuals who are unable to drive in all the ways? I mean, is the short answer, right?
Absolutely.
Because once these are deployed at scale, they'll be more affordable than taxi or Uber. Still not as affordable as public transportation if you're able to take that, if it works for your location and schedule and all that, by all means do that. So now we get to the map. Oh, the map. So this is the great state of Texas, and I know because it's the same shape as the waffles that I get in every hotel I've been in the state of Texas. And my buddy came down from Houston to visit me when I was in Austin once. And when he checked in, he said, do the waffles go? Yes, they're Texas. Oh, I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. Have you ever been to another state where they make the waffles in the shape of the state?
No, have you?
No. It's only in
No.
Texas where we have this waffle obsession.
They're not even ideal shapes, but I mean, Wyoming, you think would jump right on that. But here we are. So, looking at some of these, we've got, if you click on them, and again, links to all these in the description. I know the text is very small, but I have to, well, I mean, let's see if I can make it a little better. We lose the map a bit.
Yeah,
Yes.
for those who are a little bit less familiar, what you see there, the big cluster up towards the top right, where a lot of the other spokes come out of, that's the Dallas Fort Worth area, and then the orange line from there goes to Houston, and then the green line goes through Austin down to San Antonio, and then the red line connects Houston, San Antonio, and El Paso, which
Hmm.
you can also get to. There's the blue line, which is I-20 that goes out to El Paso from Dallas Fort Worth.
And if you were to drive from, say, Houston to El Paso, how long would that take?
1 metric ton of time. It is forever. Like the state of Texas, it's obviously not as big as Alaska, but probably the only other state that you could spend that much time on the interstate would be driving or trying to drive the southern tip to the northern tip of California. It's probably at least 10 hours. I know that where I live, which is not on the border of East Texas, I'm 12 hours away from El Paso on I-20. And yeah, I think Houston is roughly the same distance from here, so probably in the neighborhood of 12 hours, and that's just Texas.
And that's just Texas. Yeah, the only place I've seen that takes longer to drive, the only state, is New York, but that's because of the traffic. So we first clicked on this little purple dot up here in Amarillo, where we see Torque Robotics, long haul freight in the testing phase. Nice. If we get into Austin here, we'll see Cruise. Status limited. Yeah, that's probably not happening right now. Going to the blue here, we've got Cleavon. with delivery vehicles. Let's go out here to KiwiBot in Stephenville, delivery vehicles. There's a lot of companies doing a lot of things. Zooks in Austin, um, testing. But in a minute here, we're going to get to, still Zooks. We're going to get to KiwiBot again. Deployed. KiwiBot is apparently deployed. Personal delivery device moving goods. Probably one of those little sidewalk bots, I'm guessing.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
I'm not familiar with that one, but we've got a lot here. Bot auto testing. But eventually, if I click on enough of them, oh, this is a shuttle at the university that is,
Mhm. Autonomous.
it says it's active, but it doesn't have the status listed. Neuro deployed, neighborhood electric vehicle moving goods. That's great. If I click on enough, we will find Coco deployed. If I click on enough, we would eventually find Aurora, which is moving stuff, which is active, deployed, Neuro's active. I mean, I can't find it now because, of course, AV Ride, active personal goods. So there are a lot of these here. And there's also Waymo. Now maybe I can find it. Refraction AI. Um, and there's Waymo in the testing
Mhm.
phase. And apparently they're getting pretty late in testing. Guys, if you want to play with this map, link in the description. Um, and I should mention real quick before we get to the more exciting part, the final story is that you can support me should you so desire. Not required, but it's how I'm able to overcome the YouTube beast, which is the dreaded algorithm. Waymo robotaxis now beyond 250,000 rides a week. What does this tell you?
Well, it definitely tells us that they have figured out how to at least reach a pretty significant level of scale for their rides. And, there's a couple of different pieces of the puzzle that are implied there that obviously they have to have their safety down very well, and they have to be able to have the vehicles available for riders to pick up quickly. But I think there's a lot of the logistics as well that are implied in there that, in order to reach those types of numbers, I think that every vehicle needs to be doing a new ride every 30 minutes
Wow.
in the San Francisco area. And so for them to be able to have that type of an average tells you that they're able to have pretty good uptime on their service, which it's great for a number of different areas of the implications that they have reached maturity. But the thing is that 250,000 rides per week is still a small fraction of what an Uber will do in the same area. Um, and so there's also a lot of growth that's left still ahead.
So I assume the numbers you're using is based on 700 vehicles deployed. It is my strong suspicion that they have significantly more than that deployed now, because I have a buddy who sent me pictures from Magna in
Hmm.
um, Arizona,
Yeah.
where they
Yep.
were outfitting hundreds more cars just a couple months ago. Those have probably been deployed since we heard that number. In any case, I think it's very impressive. Um, my takeaway from all this is that if you hate self driving because you hate Tesla or hate Elon, it doesn't matter because everybody's working on this. Everybody can now see that it is attainable and they're all working towards it. I just came back from China where I got to see many, many cars from different brands with various degrees of autonomy, some of them more successful than others. I wasn't in Shenzhen where the autonomous fleets are rolled out, where they're actually doing truly driverless rides, or rather remote drives, because it's really automotive puppeteering. Apparently, what I was told in China was that, what do you think the legal requirement is for the ratio of cars to drivers?
I want to say it was one driver per every 3 cars or something. I saw this
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. That's right. 3 to 1. That's wow. But I'll tell you, as soon as a company is
That
at the
sounds like a
point,
jobs program.
it does, it does. As soon as they're at the point where one driver could handle 100, those companies will approach the government and say, guys, it's time to change the rules, or at least make
Mhm.
exceptions for those of us who can, because 3 to 1 is great.
Yeah.
What you've done is reduce the cost of the driver by a third, by 2/3.
Mm. Yep.
Um, Pretty crazy. Also in this article, they said that Volkswagen plans to introduce self-driving cars in 2026. What? Whose technology are they using?
And I wonder what other things Volkswagen was planning to bring out in 2024 and 2025 and 2026, and how did those plans go?
The ID2 is coming out next year, maybe 18 months, every year for the last, I want to say 4 years. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be 25 grand. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I am holding my breath still, and I have long since passed. So, yeah, that means there's a lot of competition in the space. The last thing I want to ask you is, and I know the answer, but I know you know the answer, and I want to hear your take. Is let's say Waymo is as good as it looks on paper. It is ready to scale. How will they compete with Tesla on a per mile ride cost basis?
It's not going to look good, um, for a number of reasons. Their vehicles cost more, so they've got to amortize a lot more cost over every mile. Um, and then it's going to be much more difficult for them, even though they've reached this 250,000 rides per week milestone, which is great. Once Tesla floods a market with 5, 10 times as many vehicles as Waymo is able to field in that specific market, then the Tesla vehicles will have much better availability, network effects. They'll be able to pretty much take over. And we've seen this play out between Uber and Lyft. The larger network definitely has an advantage in being able to attract and retain riders just out of convenience. And so if they can do that and then also undercut them a little bit on cost, then that does not signal good things for a full Waymo solution. So that's why they have to do these partnerships then with someone like Uber. But if you're basically offering a service that is the pricing is based on having human drivers in it, that's just not going to compete with a full autonomous uh, ride hail network that has the same type of scale that the Uber network has in that market.
Well, the way I explained it in a recent talk I gave for the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association was with a Waymo, you start with a $50,000 vehicle minimum, and then you add all the sensors, you add all the hardware, you add the things needed to make it safe and use case appropriate, like maybe a steering wheel cover, so they can't grab it, or maybe change out the seats to something a little friendlier for cleaning. You have to add all that. Then you have to add the cost of the time to do the retrofit. Really, you need to add the cost of the reduced usability for the vehicle itself. When you're drilling holes in a vehicle, police cars famously leak and then get electrical problems because they weren't meant for that, which is weird. You'd think they would purpose build one. So, and then versus with a cybercab, you start at, let's say, 25,000. We don't know what it's going to be or what the retail cost, but for Tesla's in-house use, it will definitely be 25,000 or less. And then you add nothing because it's done. That's it. So, and a Waymo vehicle, whether it's a iPace or a Hyundai or a what's the Zeekr
Z-
box,
yeah, Zeekr, that's right.
yeah, then those are 150,000-mile vehicles. Period. The Cybercab is designed to not be a 150,000-mile vehicle, but even if it was, even if they both had the same mileage case, it looks like uh, Tesla's cost will be about 65% lower per mile. Uh, and that means they could undercut them by 50% and still have a bigger margin than Waymo, which is breathtaking.
Yeah, that doesn't even speak to the other huge challenge of then adding new market by new market. That Waymo's approach to having to do the HD maps in a new city makes that a much bigger uphill climb for them to go from San Francisco to wherever, whether that's Dallas Fort Worth, whether that is New York, New York. There's so many different challenges that they have to overcome. And then, so they have to spend more money on the fleet to put in that location. They have to do a whole lot more work to get the software to work there. And all of that stuff is going to take extra time. And time is the one thing that they are not going to have when it comes to a battle against Tesla once the ride hail network has been proven out in Austin.
One more big advantage is, when will Waymo come to my town of 30,000 people? I think the answer is never. If there was no competition, they would come maybe never, maybe in 10 or 15 years. Well, when will Tesla come? Surely they're not interested in my little market. Good news, they don't have to be. I'll buy one or two or three, and I'll be the cybercab guy in my town because I am happy to live on a leaner margin than a big corporation does, and it will already work here. Just think of the cost of Waymo having to HD map my little town. There's a million little stupid streets and parking lots. It would be, I'm confident, cost prohibitive for them to come to my town in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. And then it goes beyond that, not just because it'll service cities that, Waymo or Lyft or Uber would never service, but even think about, the area that's covered in the outskirts of town, in the big cities, in the suburbs, where there are just places where you're not really going to be able to rely on Uber if you want to get anywhere quickly. And that's because the economics for drivers to be populating those specific areas don't work out. Once you don't have a driver in the car, all of a sudden it makes a lot more sense to go ahead and have some coverage in those areas, at least enough to cover the amount of riders that there are there. And so you'll actually get better coverage and better ability to travel in and out of cities from further away on these ride hail networks than currently exists with Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, it is a whole bunch of concerns all piled on top of each other. It is not going to make sense. And you're right that Waymo would have to map streets and parking lots on which they may never have a fare, which is difficult. It's difficult. This morning, I had a situation with my car. I put in my destination of home. I tried to leave the parking lot, and it wanted to cut out the back and go around to the street, but it was too early in the morning, and the store had closed the gate. So my car comes to a dead end, does a 3-point turnaround, and chooses a new route. What? I am positive I am the first person to have that encounter in that spot on FSD, and I was amazed. Uh, Whereas with Waymo, I think I'd live there now. I think that would be my new home.
Until a remote operator could come and save you.
Yes. Oh, where I live, oh, I would still be there. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Head over to Hans's channel. You can subscribe. There's a link in the description below. You can follow him on X. He's there as well. That's where I see him every Friday when we do the Tesla Beat podcast with Tesla owners of Silicon Valley and Tesla owners of San Joaquin Valley. They are, our Valley bros. They're our buds. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the Flippity Flop.